Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is a very important one, and I encourage you to stay to the end. Extremely important. It's electrical grid sabotage. Now, I'm going to pray. I'm going to say, Lord, don't let them give us a strike or take us off. In Jesus' name, from the things I'm about to cover today. Which, by the way, it is summertime, and every summertime it gets really dry financially. So if God has blessed you and you need help Prophecy Club, now would be a wonderful time if you could do it. All right. So I didn't know I was going to be telling everybody this, but Sunday night I had a dream. And the dream was that I was packing all of my stuff into my to-go bags. I have about 3 to-go bags. And I woke up and I made note of it. As a matter of fact, I may have my note here someplace. Well, I thought I had it. Okay, anyway, yeah, I'd written down a note to make sure I did it. And the next day I told Leslie, and it wouldn't leave me, just kept staying with me, get your to-go bags ready. Now, I'm not a real, and Leslie is certainly not a real big outdoors type person. You know, our idea of roughing it is staying at the Holiday Inn. So getting to-go bags is not high on my priority list. I do have them, but I haven't gone through them in a long time, so I pulled them out. And I'm in the process of pulling everything out of them. I'm going to lay it out, list what I have, take a picture of it, and I'm also probably going to be adding some things. And I suggest you do that because it takes several days to think through, okay, now what kind of things might I need? And I'm not getting into what are the things to put into a to-go bag because you can Google it and there's lots of folks out there that know a whole lot better than me what you should get. However, I think it's interesting that God told me to update my to-go bag. That's critical with what we're about to talk about today. Also, I don't want to start making 2 programs. In other words, one where I'm telling you what I really want to tell you, which I would put on Prophecy Club so that it wouldn't be taken off. So I have to kind of talk in circles to be able to tell you the things that I'm about to tell you today. So I don't want to start making 2 programs, but I want to tell you some important information platforms will sure prohibit. I can't even give their website, so I will summarize and change the story enough so they will have no reason to delete my channel again because I lost 5 years of teaching, Bible studies, Sunday morning sermons, all gone with no redress of grievances, no hearings, no independent group to appeal to, just boom, delete, gone. Yes, I am scared to tell you what I know is going on. I also must speak in circles and roundabout sentences, but I think you'll understand. And as I've already prayed, Lord, protect Prophecy Club. So here goes. This is my summarized version, okay? This wonderful website, which I believe is actually hearing from God, actually telling the truth, I check it several times. And it tells the story of a plot that was foiled by the good guys. This is my summarized version or the roundabout version of the events of that article. I can't even tell you what website. I can't use anything from that site. Or as a matter of fact, I made a program one time, and as soon as I clicked stop, the Holy Spirit told me, if you put that out, they will delete your channel. So I had to delete the whole program. And it's just that serious. So here's what the plan was. The plan was to insert a V into 2 or 3 electrical grids, which would shut down the program and Western power grids. This V is a program that takes over the computers and shuts down the electrical grid and leaves them powerless to fix it. Fortunately, there are still a few good Christians in high places that spilled the beans and gave them the locations of which this program was going to be inserted into the electrical grid computers and stopped it. The program, once inserted, would take down the eastern and western grids. Texas is an independent system and would not be affected. Once down, the plan was to leave them off for 48 hours, at which time the program would then self-destruct. Now, that's the reported plan. I don't think it was just 48 hours. And why 48 hours? I think that the good side of them knows that after 48 hours, the freezers and refrigerators reach warm and millions of dollars in food. And I'm not talking about just residential food. I'm talking about food and food lockers, the distribution, the grocery stores. Millions and millions of dollars worth of food would have to be thrown out. I think that was their original plan, but I think that once they got into it and they saw just how successful it was, I don't think they'd stopped, because these people will stop at nothing to put their man, the Antichrist, on the throne. And as they told Benjamin Fulford, we have ruled this planet for thousands of years, and we'll destroy it rather than give it up. They are willing to destroy the entire planet, and Revelation says they will eventually. I mean, that's the reason the earth turns upside down and scatters abroad in the inhabitants thereof. So anyway, let's go on. The plan was to send the country into chaos. They anticipated robberies, rapes, looting, burning. Have you seen those movies? I'm trying to remember the name of them. Where it's you could kill anybody you want to, do anything you want to for 24 hours. I forget the name of the movies. But anyway, there's a bunch of them. And I think that is them warning us that this is the plan. They anticipated robberies, rapes, looting, burning with no news reporting. When the solution would turn the electricity, or when the solution was reached, they would turn the electricity back on. But I don't think that they would have really done that. Airlines, buses, all public transportation would be shut down. No television, cell phones, radio, or television. Said that twice. They had groups ready to go in neighborhoods to rape, rob, burn, steal, and shoot any that resisted. The evil had placed government agents into groups of the good guys to rise to power or influence within that group, and then encourage them or command the good guys, saying, this is the bad guys trying to take over. We need to pick up our shooting irons and go against the government, which is exactly what evil in high places wanted. A reason to crack down on the good guys with deadly force. The purpose was to cause the nation to go into total chaos. Remember, on the front of the book, Morals and Dogma, it has ordo ab chaos. That means order out of chaos. What order? A new world order, a world government out of a chaos they create. I've been hesitant to say we're in the tribulation. This makes me think that it's another one of those things I think we may be. I'm not ready to say for sure we are, but if they were to shut down the electricity to about 80% of the Americans, and if it was 48 hours, that would be devastating enough. But to do it for longer than 48 hours, people would be screaming bloody murder. We will do whatever you want to do. Give us back our electricity. JB would then come on when the power was restored, saying, when the power was off, the good guys went about killing the bad guys from coast to coast. That's a lie. But nevertheless, they can say what they want because they have the news source. They own the radio and the TV. So they can say what they want, as we know. So when the power's off, here's what happened. The good guys went about killing the bad guys from coast to coast, giving cause to release the Department of Justice on the good guys, ending our Constitution. I hope you're listening. Ending our Constitution, our freedoms, and our way of life. In other words, electricity down, Constitution gone. Electricity down, New World Order on the rise. The number of deaths, property damage would be catastrophic. But the purpose was to remove our freedoms. Far worse than the recent demic did. Martial law, sunset curfews, local and state police agencies might have been commandeered for our safety. In other words, the federal government just took over. No more Constitution, no more freedoms. We do as we are told. Our world, as we know it, would be gone. Now, this was supposed to have actually started about 2 weeks ago. I didn't make note of the date, but reportedly, after 2 days of electricity, it would then be turned on. But again, I don't think they would turn it on. I think they would let it go until they got what they wanted. But reportedly, they would be turned back on. Then JB would be the hero and take all the credit for the solution. Then JB would then blame it on the Chinese and the Russians and call for more funding and perhaps American boots on the ground in Ukraine. I personally don't believe power would have been restored in 2 days. I think the power would stay off until all of their objectives were reached. In other words, basically, that the strength and power of America as the world power was gone. Could happen just that quick and just that fast. How the good guys were able to discover and stop their plan is nothing short of a miracle from God, but I can't tell the story. I will say this, that God gave us a little bit more time. So I'm going to urge you to go to solarsurge.net. This is the solar system I got, and I absolutely love it. Works wonderful. You may be thinking, I can't afford it. I think you owe it to you and your family to go there, talk with Joe, let him look at your system, and see if you can afford it. This is not about whether you can afford it. Look at electricity goes off for even 2 days, you will be really glad you had it. I'm just telling you. Now let's go to an article that confirms what I was just saying. All News Pipeline. One well-coordinated attack would unleash madness unlike anything we've ever seen before, as we're sent to the new dark ages. Globalists to blame, grid down event on conservatives. Now, this article came out after the event was supposed to take place. I do not know if these people were in on some inside information, but it may have been. But what they've got to say here is very, very powerful. According to this March 2nd of 2023 story, over the Institute of Energy Research story entitled, Brace Yourself for Coming Electricity Shortages. Anyone who still thinks the U.S. grid is immune to blackouts has another think coming. With their story warning the PJM internet connection just reported insufficient supply of new renewable technology to meet demand, as the region, which consists of 13 eastern states, and the District of Columbia expects to retire 21% of its existing generating capacity by 2030. Now, what do you think is really going on? Do you think that they're really doing this to help us? No. This is part of the evil elite shutting down our electricity. You might not want to get your solar system immediately, but I can tell you this, there's a lot of people getting them. The guy that came out that puts in the little meter for me, the meter that where I can take electricity from the grid as well as send it up to the grid, he puts in about 20 of those a day. He said everybody around here is getting them. If you haven't thought about getting a solar system, I think you're making a mistake. I think that you need to seriously consider it. Your electricity goes off. And, josephkitchen.com has got some small units that are good for making bread. But they're not, power an AC unit or a bunch of refrigerators or things like that. I mean, system I have, I can go out there and flip the system. I can turn the grid off permanently, and I still have electricity. That's, in my opinion, that's what you want. Anyway, let's go on. Meaning that fossil fuel, there is no such thing as fossil. Well, there is too. It's coal oil or coal. But what they really mean is crude oil. It's another thing that the evil people in high places have pushed on us. It's a technology. It's a word that is wrong. It should say crude oil, meaning that the crude oil powered plants have dominated America's energy production infrastructure for decades are being retired. At a much quicker pace than renewable energy sources are being developed. The story warns such imbalances are a guarantee of future shortages and blackouts. I'm going to say it's by design, just like they're shutting off our food. With two of the main problems hampering renewable energy sector being that solar power is dependent upon the sun shining, it is. Wind power is dependent upon the wind blowing. And so obviously having crude oil powered electricity is better. But for the residential home or the business, solar is very, very good. I'll tell you this, that when, in my particular situation, when the clouds come over, most of the time it still generates enough electricity to do pretty much anything I want done. Let's go on. Warnings have gone out about a coming catastrophic grid down event. What? Okay, so they've been warning us that this could be, I'm going to say, they've been warning us that it's going to be a grid down. Now, just because we thwarted this one doesn't mean we've got past it. It's still a wonderful plan to take down America and move us into a world government. Warnings have gone out about a coming catastrophic grid down event for many years now. The mainstream media and Department of Homeland Security are now heavily pushing a narrative claiming that right-wing extremists, that's right, we're the problem. They're really the problem, but they're going to blame it on us, you see, because, again, they own the news. Right-wing extremists or Russia might attack the power grid via physical violence, an EMP, or even cyber attacks. Well, this thing was going to be a cyber attack, hinting the globalists themselves are the ones prepping a false flag grid down event. That's correct. That would be an immediate game changer all across the country. That's right. It could just remove the Constitution, all of our freedoms. Several recent mainstream media reports reveal potential predictive programming being used to get the public ready for alleged right-wing or Russian attacks on the power grid. In other words, they're saying, well, it could be that these extremists, or what we call Christians, could be destroying our grid. No, it's not going to be the Christians. It's going to be the evil people in high places. CBS Mornings covered a recent Department of Homeland Security report warning that far-right activists, that's mean you, Christians, that's what they're calling, could be targeting the U.S. power grid as a way to disrupt the country and the government's ability to operate. See, they're blaming it on us. We wouldn't be the ones to do that. Despite first claiming the attacks would be done by right-wing extremists, the actual DHS paper states that individuals adhering to a range of ideologies will likely continue to plot and encourage physical attacks. And apparently that's exactly what their plan was. Another CBS Fear campaign recently told viewers that Russia could target the American power grid system to create chaos. Not going to be Russia. It's evil in high places. I can't even say the name of them. That's where they ticked me off last time. The entire U.S. could allegedly suffer a power blackout if just 9 key power substations were targeted, either physically or by hackers. And with WEF founder Klaus Schwab early warning a cyber attack that took down the electrical grid could make the manufactured recent crisis, the anti-V crisis, appear to be a small disturbance in comparison. In other words, electricity going out could make the anti-V situation look like a cakewalk. Globalists have been thinking about a grid down event. Who'd put it past them to unleash such a horror upon the American people to finalize their Great Reset and to New World Order? And that's exactly what the plan was that they thwarted. Any kind of event that takes down the electrical grid in America could easily lead to the deaths of 90% of the country or more if the outage lasted a year and a half or longer. With most Americans totally unprepared to live their lives in what would amount to the dark ages, cyber warfare is an existential threat that could explode with tragic consequences. All it would take would be one coordinated cyber attack, which apparently was what they were just planning, that could shut down 80% of the U.S. grid. Apparently was supposed to happen like 2 weeks ago. Think about what America would look like if 80% of the country no longer had power. With a boatload of U.S. senators, we talked about this just a few days ago, recently having been issued satellite phones, another sign that government itself is getting ready for things to go hot, or should say go dead. As CBS News reported that the development senators were issued satellite phones. Why? To ensure a redundant and secure means of communication during a disruptive event. And they were told them that they need to have them by, I believe it was last Friday. While warning the phones are a security backstop in the case of emergency that takes out communications in part of America. So they themselves were planning to have communications. And they themselves already have underground facilities chock full of water and food. They're going to take care of themselves. But meantime, us up on the surface, we're supposed to just starve to death. JosephKitchen.com. Yeah, better go there and get you some wheat. I'm warning you. The cities would be, now this is, I talked about this the other day, and I thought, I think I want to read through this. I'm going to read through it a little bit faster. This is what they foresee could happen. The cities would be the hardest hit. Thousands trapped in elevators, electrical appliances shut down, refrigerators, heating, AC, ATM machines inoperative, banks and other businesses shut down, gas stations without generators can't pump fuel. For most, profound darkness. This is day one. Some people are beginning to realize that this is very widespread and could become a long-term grid down situation. Water faucets begin to run dry in some areas without utility generators. Toilets will no longer flush without water pressure. Law enforcement responders overwhelmed by emergencies. Outbreaks of looting in the unusual places. Batteries on laptops, cell phones, flashlights going dead. Those with generators are using up their fuel. Massive gridlock in the city regions. Some vehicles run out of gas and are abandoned. Conflicting descriptions of power outage, unknown expected duration, but looking more like long-term. Officials disagree regarding the recommended actions. Day 3. Gas stations running out of fuel. Water is a premium. Some emergency generators assist in pumping water and sewage. Many unprepared are running out of food already. Majority, they're beginning to panic. As reality sets in, this is widespread and long-term grid down. Drugstores, grocery stores, stripped in some regions. Now, this is at the end of week 1. Any government emergency rations, gone. Hospital generator systems running out of fuel. Renewed fuel delivery isn't coming. Some of the elderly and infirm are dying. Hospitals overwhelmed, struggling to perform emergency services. Martial law declared by the government, though most don't get the message. Military attempts to maintain a veneer of order, but not enough personnel. Looting has become rampant. Desperate people join in. Millions upon millions are on their own. Hope you're listening. Week 2. People have become deeply frightened. Fear for their lives, not knowing what is going to be a long-term grid-down catastrophe. Most are now entirely running out of food. Many are dying in regions without access to water and inability to get somewhere else. Many are dying in regions, climates where there is heat or cold. Diseases set in, typhoid fever, cholera from eating tainted food, water, poor sanitation. The end of the first month, many drug-dependent patients dead. Millions with severe psychotic disorders create bedlam. People, communities fighting over resources. Home invasions. Violence-related die-offs. Escaped prisoners, organized gangs, more violence. Matter of fact, a lot of the prisons, those doors are kept closed by electricity. Electricity goes off, prisoners come out. Communities slowly starving. Now, the end of the first year, grid down, about 90% are dead. Are you listening? SolarSurge.net, JosephKitchen.com, CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Get yourself prepared. Get you a bug-out bag. Ask Jesus to forgive your sins. I'll send you to SolarSurge.net. Now, this guy, he's a good guy. He's been following Prophecy Club for, 10 years. And one day, probably 6 months ago, he called me, we got to talking, and I said, I've been thinking about getting this solar panel thing, but I don't know much about it. Tell me. Well, after he explained it to me, and I sent him my electrical bill for the last year, he calculated it all up, and he said, well, we got a plan C that is a low, the minimum you want. Got a plan B. We got a plan A. But at what is it, 3.9 or 4.9% interest over 25 years didn't cost you much, okay? And all of that, but the government gives you all kinds of tax deductions, money back. He's the expert. Joe Ordia is his name, solarsurge.net. It took me about 20 minutes to make these 2 loaves in my kitchen at an ingredient cost of about $12 each. In a time of food shortage and emergency, I'm going to cut each one of these loaves into 14 slices. Eat a slice in the morning, in the afternoon, I'll be satisfied. You want long-term food storage? You want to cut your food costs? Here it is. Eat 2 whole wheat bread slices daily for about a year for about $800 each. JosephKitchen.com's wheat berries come in a nitrogen-infused 7-gallon pail for long-term storage. Most other emergency food costs about $10,000 per person per year. That's right, about $10,000 per person per year. But at Joseph Kitchen, you could do it for about $1,000 per person per year. Now, to get started at josephkitchen.com, you're going to need a machines package. That's going to give you the grinder, the bread machine, the knife slicer, all you need to make bread, and then you decide how much food you want to get. You want food 6 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 2 people 1 year, or just 1 person for a year, all at josephkitchen.com. About $1,000 per person per year at josephkitchen.com. Use the promo code Prophecy Club. Get you a $50 discount. josephkitchen.com, promo code Prophecy Club for a $50 discount on your first order. Terry Saka with CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. So what's going on in the world of finances? Why should they call today?
Well, China has laid out in a speech a few weeks ago exactly what they think of the United States. I haven't seen that in my 55 years. With China and Russia forming these reserve currencies, new reserve currency, we better be prepared because that dollar is going to be in deep trouble and we're going to need assets to protect us from it.
CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Call them or go online, CornerstoneAssetMetals.com, or call them at 888-747-3309. 888-747-3309. Next is, I'll send you to EMPShield.com. If you use the promo word prophecy, you get a $50 discount. What is that? Well, it looks like this. This is the one that goes into a car, okay? And you put the red wire to the red side of the battery, you put the black wire to the black side of the battery, and the green one attaches to the body of the car. Then you peel it off right back here. Just peel that off, stick it inside of the engine compartment of your car. And the whole point is when the electricity goes off or when some kind of a suitcase nuclear device goes off, this is supposed to be able to stop that device from destroying every computer chip in your car. Because if every computer chip is destroyed in your car these days, you couldn't possibly replace them all. Throw the car away. So, EMPShield.com, promo code prophecy. Leslie Johnson had a prophecy back in 2011. She says, the Lord says there's going to be something put into the water supply in many cities of the nation. People will begin to get sick, some will die. Get a good, reliable water filter. You will not be able to trust the tap water or the bottled water. You must get something to filter the water you are going to need. That's back in 2011. So if you want it, we suggest you go to prophecyclub.com. You click right here where it says Berkeys. This is what it looks like. Currently, all Berkeys are in stock. The one I have is this guy right here. It's the Crown. It has 8 filters. I recommend you get as much as you can afford and also recommend you get some extra filters. That's at prophecyclub.com.